Hello there, social media loving peeps. Welcome back to my channel. I'm at it again like a crazy person doing another Life is Strange video, but this time it's different. My last video, I was talking about Chloe and how grief and the environment shapes our reality. Basically, it changes how we express in our environment as we grow up. But you can go watch that video if you want, but this one is going to be different. This one, I'm going to be discussing about Amanda, Max, and why some routes are just not meant to be, meaning I'm talking about the love storyline for that game, by the way. So, I did play Life is Strange Double Exposure before I decided to play Life is Strange Remastered, and I have something to say about Amanda, okay? The Life is Strange franchise is known for its narrative-driven stories that genuinely involve a side option. Okay, where you can either romance a male character or a female character. There's a point system for it, like an internal point system, where if you score enough good choices with those characters, you can unlock a romantic option with them and get a romantic kiss scene. At least I'm aware of this for the first game, Before the Storm, True Colors, and of course, you know, Double Exposure. I don't know anything about Life is Strange 2. I didn't play that game, okay? So in Double Exposure, our option is between Amanda and Vin, okay? Max Caulfield's sexuality is indicated to be bisexual. As the player, and the fact that I'm a lesbian, I'm always going to choose the sapphic route, okay? So that's a warning. However, I often get the impression that the route is intended to be the sapphic option. You get what I'm saying? Because it was presented from the beginning, earlier than the male character of the game in Double Exposure. Even in the first Life is Strange, Max only thinks of Warren as a nerdy friend who happens to share her interests. Literally, she says that in her inner monologue, by the way. In Max's internal dialogue, even before reuniting with Chloe, she thinks Brooke is the perfect match for Warren, okay? Let that sink in. She even wants them to end up together. That's a character who doesn't show any romantic interest or even curiosity, but yet somehow they give that option, but it's there from day one. So when players choose Warren, I see it as something added to appease or reach a broader audience, not something the creators intended. Pretty much I'm just re-saying what I've been saying. I see it as fulfilling the publisher's demands at this point, because, you know, publishers, they have their freaking demands on the fly there. It's like, no, we want this, okay? And you either agree with it or it gets scrapped. I don't know how that really works, by the way. A similar situation happened with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The better story option comes with the female protagonist versus the male. I don't know if anyone's ever played that game, but I have, and I realized the female has a better storyline than the male. A lot of gamers realize the male version felt inserted to appease players who prefer male characters, but it lacked the rich story options. Luckily, players prefer female characters. I noticed that, by the way. I have male gamer friends who admit they prefer picking female characters in most games, especially narrative-driven action games like Mass Effect. I do the same because I love women. Hello, lesbian. Okay, so why would I choose not to play a woman in video games? I love women, okay? Don't hate on me for that. But let that sink in. The point I'm making is that sometimes the correct route is the queer option because it's the most developed route, but not in the case of Double Exposure. And in my streams, in one of my streams, I wasn't able to explain well how I thought of Amanda, especially because she's the verbally outed lesbian in the game. It comes from her mouth. Exactly. I'm a lesbian. No dodging or going around the bush like the first Life is Strange. So I was rubbed the wrong way when in chapter 1, after Safi's death, she rejects Max. To me, it just does not make sense. I gave her, however, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I eased back my thoughts until I got a better picture of her character, meaning, progressing the game and see where this is heading. One of my viewers also brought up the trope of the love interest rejecting the protagonist once supernatural abilities appear. And I didn't know a trope like that existed, so, I think it does exist. But let that sink in. I'm going to give a thought on this. It may be incorrect, but I'm going to say it anyway. Because the game is already diverse in sexual orientation and presents a trans character, Gwen, I loved her, by the way, I view it as a poke of people who are fundamentally built differently genetically, genetic advantages and neurodiversity. I think that's where it's hitting at, okay? Like I said, I could be incorrect on that, but that's how I'm interpreting it. I don't know how you guys interpret it, okay? I mean, you can let me know in the comment section. However, Amanda rejects Max not because of her abilities. She doesn't know about them yet in chapter 1. That's the thing I want to point out here. She rejects Max because a tragedy happened, and that was the deal breaker for her. But I waited. I really did. I held it in. I learned that Amanda goes to therapy and deals with becoming too clingy too fast, which I can empathize with that. That kind of does stem from abandonment, oppression of sexuality, which most lesbians go through anyway, and even bisexual women. Heteronormative culture basically is the perpetrator of this way of clinging, okay, and abandonment issues and all this stuff. I don't know. I might be totally 100% wrong on that, or I might be right, half right. I don't know. But I do know lesbians do mention this. We didn't have the option to date girls as minors, which is a part of the experience, with younger people always going on, hetero couples going on dates, and it's seen as normal. A lot of us didn't have that experience because of heteronormativity culture, okay? So the growth process of understanding our identity early on wasn't something we could experience like straight kids could. I know I'm pointing that out, okay? That shaped our world, and let that sink in, okay? Like, really let that sink in. So, but I took the whole rejection thing as Amanda not really liking Max as much as Max likes her. You can take that as how you would think it is. I viewed it as that. That is a realistic thing that happens in reality, is that you can like someone more than they actually like you. Like, they don't put in the same energy as you, and that's a real thing. Because I'm going to point this out. If you truly like someone and you want to be with them romantically down the line, you kind of do rise to the occasion. Okay, you are going to rise to the occasion if you want to be with that woman. If you want to be with that woman, you're going to rise every sorts of occasions, okay? You're going to rise, especially during tragedies, okay? Most of us who've had romantic relationships know that what truly counts is how your partner handles tragedy, how they show up for you. The whole situation wasn't a boundary. I did not see that as a boundary. Amanda made it a deal breaker. And that left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm very honest about that. That left a huge bad taste in my mouth. It means Amanda can't handle the tragedy that happens to people she supposedly likes, and that's a problem. So in chapter 5, with the combined timelines, when Amanda says to Max, "I really like you," I didn't take that as face value. I saw that so performative that I kind of just had to keep it inside internally while I was on the stream. That's because she has the experience of what could have been if the tragedy hadn't struck. That's what I took that mostly from. I'm going to be honest. She could have had it. She really could have, but she didn't choose it. That's why I felt so bad for Max. When Max likes someone, she's really all in. Amanda did not like Max as much as she let on, okay? Or she's just gaslighting herself. I don't know. I'm not saying Amanda is a bad person. I'm saying she didn't like Max as much as Max liked her. And that happens. And that's okay. It just means they're not compatible with each other. And that means they aren't meant to be together romantically and probably just friends. Of course, that's going to hurt Max's feelings in the process, but she needs to realize they aren't compatible enough. Because what Amanda did is an automatic deal breaker, especially if you want a long-term partner, not just as a romantic bubble, live in a romantic bubble. Life isn't sunshine and rainbows. Some people prefer that, which is why they go from person to person seeking that high. I am just speculating. It's probably 150% true, but really long-term relationship does require quite a bit of vulnerability, transparency, and you kind of have to handle tough circumstances together and see how you can rise to the occasion with each other. That really does define how long your relationship will last. If you don't want to do that, it's not going to last that long. What you're looking for is something very casual, and it's going to be short term. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on that one, but let that sink in, okay? Because I watched the trailer for Life is Strange Reunion, because I mentioned in my last video and everything that I look forward to it. After playing Double Exposure, it kind of clicked with me that maybe Amanda was never supposed to be Max's romantic endgame. You get what I'm saying? I think it's meant for Chloe, okay? I think it was always meant to be Chloe. Max liked Chloe romantically a lot. You can see it a lot in the first game, even though it looked one-sided because Chloe was still in love with Rachel, and it was still raw in the moment of finding out that Rachel was dead the entire time. And it takes time to move on from that. It really does. It wouldn't happen during the duration of the game timeline. It would just be kind of like speculative or imagined, or show up in I didn't do the timeline or the option that Chloe did leave, which I found out that, they broke up and everything like that, which is fine. Partners move apart over time and everything, but sometimes they come back together once they grow enough, okay? It takes growth to realize who your romantic partner is meant to be, okay? It really does. And it takes you living life and observing and experiencing things to understand who is your most compatible partner and who you want to choose to grow with in time, like partners in time. But either way, people, thank you for watching this video. If you like it, you can hit that like button and maybe subscribe or check out my gaming channel, because I'm still playing the Life is Strange franchise. And upon Life is Strange Reunion release, I am going to play it on stream, okay? If you want to join, you probably want to subscribe to that channel and keep up with my post, okay? But either way, thank you and bye.